Welcome to Peculiar Tales, the show where we dive into the stranger things in history, urban legends, ghost stories, and anything else we find, well, peculiar. I'm Christy.
And I'm Dawn. Today in Canada, it is Remembrance Day, a day that our nation pays respect to those who have served and those who continue to serve. The poppy is worn starting on the last Friday of October through to the 11th of November. In addition to the poppy being worn, ceremonies are held to show respect at monuments and schools. It is important to always be grateful for the peace and safety and freedoms we have. We at Peculiar Tales want to say thank you to all for your service. It does not go unnoticed the sacrifices made for our freedoms and safety. Please join us as we give a moment of silence for respect. Many military forts in Ontario have been carefully restored and preserved. Today's episode includes a few of them. The fort's purposes were to protect, and at times the forts were busy with sounds of chores, training, and preparations for any battles that might come. Other times, the fort's sounds were thunderous with cannons and hundreds, if not thousands of muskets firing all at once, sometimes for hours, the smoke filling the air, making it hard to see or even breathe. Sometimes in those moments of thick smoke and loud sounds of muskets and cannons firing and soldiers yelling, a figure of the enemy would appear a few feet in front of the soldier, emerging from the smoke, and the only thing to save the soldier was the bayonet at the end of his musket. Fear, confusion, anxiety, anger, determination were among the feelings of those fighting in those battles. And then it was over. It was quiet, the wars ended, and time marched on. Now, hundreds of years later, there are forts that have now become museums and historic landmarks, left for us to tour and learn from. The cannons and muskets are fired now from time to time, but not to win any battles, but merely demonstrations for anyone willing to attend tours that include them. However, one should take caution because all who attend the tours or occupy the lands may not be of the living anymore.
Our first fort is in the Niagara region. Fort George is in Niagara-on-the-Lake in Ontario, Canada. Fort George has seen many important battles. It was captured and then about 7 months later burnt down. The fort was reoccupied, but then after a time was abandoned. Today, Fort George is a historical site for Canada and is a host to reenactments and tours that are offered to the public. It has stemmed from stories of some versions that through time some have stayed, now haunting the grounds. One of the ghosts at the fort is a little girl. As some stories go, her name is Sarah Ann, and she may have died from disease at the age of 7 years old. Other stories are told saying that no one knows how she died, but we do know she lived at the fort with her family. Sarah Ann was the daughter of a sergeant major with the King's Dragoon Guards at Fort George.
Sarah Ann is buried at a nearby cemetery and seems to spend some of her time in the afterlife at the fort. She is playful and by most accounts likes to spend time in the barracks. Some say she likes to play hide and seek, and others say she tugs at clothing. It has been written that she is mostly seen during tours in a white dress, and some see her bare feet running away from them, and others see white or green hazes, and the sounds of her laughing in the hallways and in the officers' quarters have also been reported. Sarah Ann is not the only talked about ghost at the fort. There have been stories told of an unsettling presence. Some say it could be a soldier who has been seen and felt near barracks number 1. Some have seen a soldier with only an upper torso who still walks his post. As well, there is unexplained footsteps and voices, and doors have been seen opening and closing as well.
Our next fort is found in Kingston, Ontario. Fort Henry has been called the Limestone City by some. Its past goes a little like this. Fort Henry was built in 5 years, from 1832 to 1837. Prior to there was a fort from the 1812 era. The fort was meant to protect the town of Kingston, along with waterways that at the time were major shipment ports for supply routes. The British Army stayed here until 1870. A gunnery school residence was there until 1891. During World War I, the fort was lightly repaired and was used as a camp for political prisoners, after which the fort was in complete disrepair.
However, this is not all there is to this fort. It has been said by some that inside these walls there have been supernatural moments that have happened during tours that are offered. The owner of the Haunted Walks tour said himself that walking through the fort at night and in the tunnels makes you feel like you're being watched. The tunnels are where the prisoners would have had to shuffle and then go through a hallway and onwards to the gallows. It is said that the prisoners who were unable to climb the 20-foot walls while trying to escape were then hanged near Kingston Courthouse or even in front of the fort. One prisoner was Niels von Schultz. He was a Swedish military officer. He was accompanied by 400 members that were a part of the Hunters' Lodge. The goal was to free Canada from the British Crown in the early 19th century. They were known as the Battle of Windmill, and they failed.
They were captured, and what has been described as gruesome hangings in the heart of Kingston. Today, people have reported seeing Niels von Schultz's spirit at the fort. Some say they have seen things move. Doors will open and shut, and footsteps are heard as well. Others have said they've seen strange lights, and like we mentioned earlier, the feeling of being watched. Fort Henry has also been visited by paranormal hunters over the years, as well as considered to be one of the most haunted locations in Ontario. Some say it's the top haunted place to visit in Kingston.
Our third fort is in Amherstburg, Ontario. In a small dark corner on the second floor at the Visitors Orientation Center at Fort Malden in Amherstburg, Ontario, you will find the journal of Dr. Fisher under protective case in a straitjacket on a half mannequin under a light. The jacket itself is a reminder of a time in history when the land was full of confusion and fear, anger and hardship, but also of hope and resilience and determination for success.
By the 1840s, Upper Canada started building asylums to help house the insane. Up until that time, the insane and the criminals were held together in prisons, jails, poorhouses, and the almshouses. By some accounts, it has been said that the hospitals brought some solace to the residents, and with the focus now on mental health, to improve the patient's insanity through various therapies, it is noteworthy to say that there was a portion of the residents that found this to be miserable.
By 1859, the Toronto Lunatic Asylum was overcrowded, and so the province declared that Fort Malden site was to be the home for the Malden Lunatic Asylum. The amounts of patients that were brought to the asylum in Amherstburg varies. Some say 146, and others say 200. Most accounts say 35 employees were sent. Both men and women were housed here. Structures were fixed and a 2-story brick laundry was built as well. So the land that had seen so much bloodshed and negative energies was now a hospital for the insane.
Dr. Fisher was the first superintendent of the asylum, who focused on fresh air, being socially active within the asylum, with dances and religious ceremonies, doing things like going to the library, gardening, and self-discipline through hard work. Dr. Fisher was not one to hand out a lot of medications, or was a big fan of isolation, which at the time both were used in other asylums. It is noteworthy to say that he spent over $1,000 in alcohol in the year.
Work therapy was a thing, and so all task and work was divided among the patients, with the thought that A little work might cure insanity. The work that was done was free labor, and not all the patients were healthy. The work was hard. You see, some tended to the growing and harvesting of food for the hospital, which at one point was commended for being so self-sufficient, saving the province around $3,000 a year at one point. That is equivalent to approximately $100,000 in today's money, give or take. In 1867, Dr. Fisher was forced to resign. Reasons given was that he mismanaged financial funds.
Dr. Lander replaced the ambitious Dr. Fisher, and many changes happened. Dr. Landor changed the location of the cook's house and the laundry. One major change that was made was to the type of patients that were admitted to the asylum. Under Dr. Fisher, the patients were labeled as quiet chronics, meaning that for the most part, the patients were non-violent. Under Dr. Landor, he made it possible that the acute, violent, and suicidal patients were on site as well. At present, there are no shortage of ghost stories. People have reported seeing phantom soldiers near the old barracks. Shadows have been seen by some crossing the paths by the fort, and it has been stated that there was a time that someone seen a face in the window. It has also been said that some have been pushed and saved from a fall by unseen forces, and psychics have said they sense negativity. Although none of this can be proven, the reports have been made.
Our last fort on this road trip of curiosity is in Fort Erie. Old Fort Erie is found in Fort Erie, Ontario, along the Niagara River. Old Fort Erie is the home of Canada's bloodiest battlefield. On September 17th, 1814, without knowing that the British the day before gave up, the Americans did a full-scale attack on the British. At the end of the day, a total number of people that died was 1,000. The British pulled back. The Americans stayed until November. They destroyed the fort upon leaving, and by December, the War of 1812 had come to an end. This kind of energy of despair, fear, and sadness, anger, disappointment, well, there's a lot of room left for hauntings on the grounds.
It is said by some that there are 2 soldiers that are still wandering around the battlefields to this day. There is a legend that says one soldier was getting a face shave by another when a British cannonball had struck them both. The person getting the shave was beheaded, and the person giving the shave was left with no hands. As the legend goes, both soldiers wander the fort, and so this is the legend of the no head, no hands. It has also been said that an archaeologist, during an excavation, found skeletons. One had no head, and one had no hands. So, some feel this could be proof of the legends.
In addition to these 2 soldiers, it has been reported that there have been sounds of military orders being yelled out, and it has been said that someone heard, "Get out of the way," and others have heard muskets and cannons fired. Visitors have said that they were touched and devices have stopped working right, and a list of other things like shadows, odd lights, and the feeling of uncomfortableness. As well, Old Fort Erie has been featured on Ghost Adventures. Okay, quick question, Chris. Do you believe a place can remember what happened there? Can a place have memories? What's your opinion?
Well, I do like the theory that because everything's made out of energy, we emit so much of it that it ingrains into everything around us, much like a record does. So I like that theory, that residual energy kind of theory. So why not? Yeah.
I believe in that too. I think that the same thing. You have so much energy, and if energy in one place, in a battlefield, for instance, that's a lot of energy.
Right.
So maybe it could stay on a loop for all of time.
Right. Why not?
Then we have Amherstburg Lunatic Asylum. Can we take a minute for that one?
Right. So, I mean, what's neat with the forts is that not only were they forts for war and went through all of that. But then they all became kind of repurposed, whether it be in this situation where it became an asylum or as a historical site. So that's kind of interesting.
I loved that when I found that out because you're right. If if you research all these different forts, and I'm sure it's like this not just in
Mm-mm.
Ontario, but other places in the country or in other countries, that they've done these things so that it wasn't a waste of land. Like they
Mm-hmm.
did repurpose it. They did make it into like things where people can learn and grow
It's
from.
just amazing all the transitions that, one building could be part of.
So with Amherstburg,
Mm-hmm.
it's seen battles.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the War of 1812. It's a significant part of its history.
Yep.
And then after that, it became the lunatic asylum.
Mm-hmm.
When the lunatic asylum ended, then it was a milling company.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the milling company was done, the fort was saved by the community.
Mm-hmm.
The community of people fought to keep the fort not demolished or
To keep it as a historical site.
so it was the people of the town that ended up like taking care of it, preserving it, helping it out until the government stepped in years later.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so the town of Amherstburg has a lot to be proud
Yeah.
of.
And just speaking of the asylum, might I say, I think I agree with how Dr. Fisher was running things.
Yeah,
I think he was on to something, and he also saved them $3,000 a year.
because like when you look at what asylums were like in the early 19th century,
Mm-hmm.
these are not these were not fun places. They weren't cared for people, so to say. They were
No,
more
drug
like
them and restrain them.
they were more like let's try this and see what happens, right?
Right.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
Not saying all of them. A lot of them it was like it wasn't a good place.
Right.
So when you read about Dr. Fisher here, and he was like, "No, let's just try to have a wholesome life." I
Right.
think he was a little ahead of his time.
I think so. I do think so too.
Yeah. He had a good
And
heart,
yeah,
or at least a good
absolutely.
mind. I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed like he wanted to do better by the people who were there.
When he retired, when he was forced
Forced.
to retire,
When he was forced.
uh, on Dalhousie Street, he had a practice. He
Oh.
opened up his own family practice, so he was a doctor in town for years
Oh,
after.
that's interesting.
Yeah, so he still had a very good life. So no head, no hands legend.
Wow, that's interesting. I've never heard that one before.
Neither have I. Neither have I. I've lived in Ontario all my life and I've never once heard that legend.
Right.
That was interesting.
It is. And the fact that it said, anyways, that there was somebody who exhumed the bodies from the land.
So the way that goes is that there was two skeletons in the same shallow grave.
Mm,
Yeah. That's why they're like, is it real? Because it says no hands, but it was actually like right below the elbow.
mm-hmm.
So it's pretty specific.
Right.
And then they found them together in this grave.
Hmm.
So maybe, you
Maybe.
never know.
Maybe the legends are true. Maybe they're still out there.
Pretty big coincidence if it's not.
Right. And then you have little Sarah Ann.
She sounds like she's just a little honey, huh?
Right.
Just
I
wants to
mean,
play.
I don't know how you play hide and go seek with a ghost. She's going to win every time.
Yeah. No, she's interesting. She's an interesting one
Mm-hmm.
because she's not buried on the land.
Well, and she's not a part of the war itself, right? So she wasn't a soldier. She wasn't part of that. So the fact that she's still there.
Yeah, so part of her story, and I don't know if it's true, is that she was left at the fort. Like her parents had to leave for whatever reason, right? And then when they came back, she was so sick,
Oh no.
and then she passed away. And the townspeople had all pitched in to give her a place to rest.
Oh,
That's what I read. Now, again, if it's true, I don't know,
right.
but
That's the legend,
that's why
anyways.
that's the interesting part. So she did live at the fort because at some soldiers or people of rank could have their families, X amount of families could stay, but those people would have to work while they
Right.
were there, right? If the little boys, once they turned 10, they got to be a drummer boy. Very sad.
Yeah.
Not a job I would ever want
No.
my child to have. It was a
No.
very bad position, but it was an honorable one
Right.
where they were like proud.
Right.
So she lived there. It's not clear what she did when she lived there. And then we have the tunnels.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you see the pictures of the tunnels, they look terrifying.
Right. Just dark stone,
Yeah.
small too, not super big if I recall properly.
Yeah, like they're just it's not a lot. And so then because, you're handcuffed or whatever, shuffling through would have been a despairing moment.
Absolutely.
Good Lord. So I don't know, like all the forts, they all had something really quite interesting to them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, for the listeners out there, if you do some investigating into things like that in your area, I'm sure you'd find some pretty interesting
And
stories.
share them with us. Let us know what your local legends are if you have such things.
Yeah.
So, when the smoke that drifted across the fields had dissipated from the last of the battles, and the quiet that came when the cannons and muskets stopped firing, it was clear the wars left scars on the lands. Towns burned and families scattered. But from the ashes, something special happened. A nation was born from endurance and memory. In the end, the wars did not decide who owned the land, but who would still forever roam it in the afterlife. And as always, thank you for listening to us today. And if you love what you hear, follow our podcast and never miss a new episode. And until the peculiar calls for another tale, bye for now.